Hello, and welcome to today's episode on why build a cloud. So a lot of times people are coming to this channel and asking, what are you doing? Now, while we do a lot of things from Twitch alerts and AI and ML and just general learning, one of the bigger projects that we've been doing for the last 9 months is building our own cloud. Now, that means a lot to different people, but I get a lot of questions of why and what. So today I'm going to talk about why and what we're building. And then later on this week, I'm going to do another one of these, especially if people like it, on the architecture that we're doing, because one of the whys, as you'll learn a little bit more, is to learn. Okay, so I have said for a while that I think the major clouds stopped innovating. And to top this off, at least I do, and hopefully you do, really enjoy learning and understanding the challenges of these real world systems. And so to do that better, to understand the problems AWS, GCP, Azure, even DigitalOcean and Linode solve and deal with, one of the things that we're doing is building our own and learning all of those things. And so, that's why I would spend the time, the money, and all the effort to build our own cloud. It's hopefully to innovate on something cool and to learn as much as we can about the challenges faced by providing words are hard. So this is why I'm spending as much time, effort, and money as I am to build this, is to hopefully, one, iterate on something new and cool that we can all appreciate. But it's also probably more importantly about learning the challenges faced about the reliability and safely letting other people run code on your hardware. I think that's actually a fascinating idea and concept, and I want to learn more about it. Now, you might be expecting me to be using as many free resources on one of the major cloud providers like AWS or GCP or Azure, and the fact is we're doing it all on bare metal in a home lab. Because again, that's part of the idea, is learning all of the challenges that are faced, writing the software for it, that will be open source, by the way, and having some fun. So that's it. So what are the goals? What are the high-level objectives? Well, the high-level objectives of my cloud, or our cloud, is to let you write your app and let us take care of everything else. I really want it to be pure serverless. So you pay for CPU, memory storage, GPU per minute or second or whatever of usage, to put it that way. You don't rent a box. You don't rent a thing. It would be in theory, pure serverless. And then I want services that just work with little or no configuration. So I don't want you to spend time writing infrastructure as code. I think infrastructure as code is a crutch that has kept us from a better cloud. And so my goal is for you not to have to write infrastructure as code to configure your environment. I want to build security in standard. So, at some point we're going to have to do DDoS protection and things like this. And one, I want to learn those things better. And two, on top of learning how to deal with those things and actually doing it, I want to make it standard. I'm so annoyed at premium services to protect your app. Your app running at protecting it should be a standard thing that comes in it. And yeah, I want to learn more about the challenges of running your own physical hardware. Whether we ever make it to a data center or not, which would be amazingly cool, I want to learn. So what does that mean? What does all of this mean? I'd like to take us to a demo deployment. I want to show you what I mean. Now, one thing that we've built on Twitch is my Twitch alerts, and they need a lot of work, and we're going to continue working on them. But this is actually a really perfect example of what I'd like to see from what we're calling the Null cloud. So if you look at this with me, we have this deployment. And this is actually how our Twitch alerts would look like right now on AWS. This is how it would run. So we have a couple different pieces of code. We have the front end code that displays the Twitch alerts. We have the back end API. We have another thing that's just designed to listen to Twitch. And we have another thing that does all of the AI work, all the AI stuff. So we have this AI service. So these are all the Git repos. So here's the legend. These are Git repos. These are apps. Pink means you own, manage, configure, and run. Orange means you manage and configure, but run is managed by the cloud provider. And green is you do nothing and it's provided for you. So green is best, orange is second best, and this reddish pink is the worst. Okay, so that's kind of the thing here. So on AWS, this is what it would look like. On AWS, you're going to have to configure all of these things with Cloudflare or the CDK or Terraform, or I said Cloudflare? I didn't mean Cloudflare. I meant CDK, CloudFormation, or Terraform. You're going to have to manage all of these things via some infrastructure as code. So this is going to be another repository out there with a bunch of meta code out there. All right, to manage all of these things. You're also going to need to manage whatever infrastructure you want to build, stand up for these things. You're going to need to make code for all of these things, standing up the infrastructure of these. And that doesn't include actually configuring or deploying these services. If you're going to do it on a AKS, or I said AKS, an EKS cluster, you'd have to stand up the EKS cluster, but you'd still need something to deploy this and manage it and whatnot. If it was just going to be on EC2, you'd still need to spin up the EC2 machine, and you'd still need to then deploy this, whether you were using Ansible or tacking onto Terraform or whatever. There's a lot of ways to do it, and that's fine. My point is, red means that not only do you have to manage the infrastructure, you need to configure and run it. That means you need to configure it with access to each one of these things. So if you're storing information, if you're storing all those Twitch alerts that we do in a database, you need to configure it to talk to the database. If you want to communicate between these things using the simple message queue, SMS, you're going to have to configure all of these things to talk to AWS SMS. If you're going to use AMP for your metrics, that's the Amazon Managed Prometheus, you're going to have to configure we can go on with each one. The same goes with CloudWatch and everything. And this includes your WAF. You're going to have to configure it. Now, Orange is just needing to configure it, and that's fine. You're going to have to configure your load balancer, your API gateway, and these things are all managed by this. And this is what came to my realization. While I was making Twitch alerts, I was like, I don't want to do all of this is more work than what I did. My front end, my back end, my Twitch alerts, and this was all simpler, less code than everything else to actually host it correctly on AWS. And that's why I'll show you in a second what I'd like to do with the Null Cloud. Now we have some questions. That drives me nuts about the current cloud provider. Okay, yeah. When you say serverless, do you mean something like Lambda or something like Fly.io or Heroku? The answer is yes. Yes. Absolutely. Part of it's going to be experimenting. Part of it's going to be understanding. And part of it is going to be trying to innovate in the space. So maybe like Fly.io, maybe like Lambda, but maybe also neither. The MVP is much like Fly.io or Heroku. That's the MVP. And if you're wanting to know architecture, in architecture, we're going over MVP architecture, and then we're going over like my end goal architecture. That's a little bit more loose because I don't have all of the pieces completely figured out yet. So yeah. All right, let's jump into what I would like to see. what I would like my end goal. No pink. No, it was supposed to be red. Okay. Honestly, it was supposed to be red. They didn't give, maybe I could have done them. It doesn't matter. Well, it's fine. No pink. So what I want to do, these things, the gateway, the load balancer, auth, WAF, merely by the fact that you deployed a backend API that you wanted to expose, these things should be configured, stood up for you automatically. How are we going to do that? I don't know entirely. I don't know, and I don't have all of the answers. I'm telling you what I think the clouds should be. I have some of the answers to some of this, and some of them we're experimenting on stream. See all of these things? So whether it's Kafka or Nats, I'm not sure. But if you're wanting to send something like AWS SMS, it should. If the backend API publishes a Kafka topic, the topic should just exist because the backend published a topic. So that topic should just exist because of the fact that this thing publishes a topic to it. The same for the database. The database should just exist because it's being leveraged. Now, I realize that all of these things are probably going to also support some customization by configuration. So there's probably like, yeah, this will be the default way, but obviously if you want to have a different index or things like that, like on databases, there's obviously going to be some sort of or some amount of customization you're going to be able to do afterwards. But the idea is that we're going to make that as little as possible. We're going to try to do everything as intelligently as possible. Because you stood up your application here, it should get a status page. Who here actually knows how to write a good status page? I have done it, and it's actually a lot of work and difficult. And what I want to do is basically say, hey, these services that you're running, I can make you a status page because I'm running your service. I know what it's like. I know its status. And that's going to be awesome. I want your logs. I don't want you to have to think about making logs. As long as you print to standard out, I should capture that and I should put it somewhere where you can use it and see it and have it in a nice central spot. I know how we're going to do some of these, like the logs and metrics. Easy. Those things should be a little bit easier to provide than like a database. The database is like the last thing on my mind. Absolute last thing. So that means if you publish code to the backend API, what I'd love to have happen here is you publish code to this backend API, or let's say you make a PR. That PR would be stood up in a PR environment. So you would basically, let's say this is our entire environment in production. That PR would basically get a replica at some subdomain with, since this is Twitch alerts, we'll just go with that. Twitch alerts, and then like the SHA. And we can make it private behind some sort of thing. So you can actually see that PR for that backend API actively running in production, or the exact same setup as production. That's hard, and a lot of people don't know how to do it. Not only that, it would just work naturally because you made a PR to the backend API. It could be a thing that exists. There would be no need for you to take that PR and write automation to go from Git to your production facilities. I don't want you to have to do that. In fact, what we have already, what we have today, and you can't use it. I actually kind of broke it yesterday. I broke it yesterday. But what we have today, if it's a Go or Rust project, you don't have to actually build a container. We build the container for you, which is pretty fun, pretty cool. And I'm pretty excited about it. It builds the container for you from your code, and it deploys it as of today. Like I said, that's more of a fly.io or Heroku, but we're just doing a proof of concept right now. That's all we're working on. So this is what we're shooting for. Where we end up, and one of the things that I like, is this a lofty goal? Is this a lofty goal? It 100% is a lofty goal. Whether we make it here or not, I don't care. I mean, I want to. Don't get me wrong, because I want this. I really do. But the other awesome thing is I'm going to be providing videos like this throughout it, where when we do something and screw something up, we're going to make a video on what we learned. When we do something unique and interesting, we're going to make a video on what we learned from it. And we're going to keep doing that as we learn different things. And we'll make some stupid mistakes because I actually haven't managed a data center before. So that's kind of outside my wheelhouse. So I'm going to learn quite a bit there. And then there's a bunch of other things that will go on here. And you know, some of the learnings will be like, we'll make short-sighted things to get an MVP out. If you asked me if they were the right way, I probably will say no. But, you know, I got an MVP out. And that is what it is. So that's what the Null Cloud is. If you're watching this on YouTube after the fact, join me live on Twitch. My Twitch will be in the comments. If you're live on Twitch right now, stick around. We're going to have AI interview me. And we're going to see how rusty I am at interviewing. But we're also going to see how well the interview AIs. Or the AI interviews. My bad.